Hey everybody, Bryce Zabel here. I want to talk about Neil deGrasse Tyson. For years, Tyson has been one of the most visible public voices treating the UFO UAP subject with a kind of amused contempt. Not skepticism. Skepticism is healthy. Skepticism is necessary. I'm all for it. What I'm talking about is the smirk, the laugh, the eye roll that is disguised as science communication, the tone that says, "I'm not convinced," and goes on to say, "You're a little silly for even asking." That has always been my issue with him. And now Neil deGrasse Tyson is out promoting a new book called Take Me to Your Leader, a book about aliens, alien contact, and how humanity might respond if visitors actually showed up. And while promoting this book, Tyson is sounding different. Again, not all the way different, not transformed, not reborn in a beam of cosmic honesty, but different. Because in recent interviews, Tyson has started saying that the subject elevated for him once it moved beyond what he called, and these are quotes, the sleepy farmer in the back 40 and drunken revelers coming out of a bar at 2 a.m. Now he says it's gone into the realm of military witnesses, high-ranking officials, and sworn testimony before Congress. He has even said that these newer figures are sincere and deserve to be heard. Now, let me tell you exactly what bothers me about hearing that. Not that he's becoming more open. Good, fine. Welcome to the party. Pull up a chair, Neil, but if you're going to make the turn, then you need to make it honestly, because it was never just the sleepy farmer in the back 40. It was never just drunken revelers stumbling out of a bar at 2 a.m. That wasn't true when Tyson was saying it then, and it isn't true now. That is not science. That is stereotype. That is not inquiry. That is credential worship. Because what Tyson is really saying is, now I'm interested because now the people who are talking have the right resumes. Now they have rank. Now they have credentials. Now they have government IDs and committee rooms and sworn testimony and all the trappings of official seriousness. Well, excuse me, but many of us have been saying that for a very long time, that there were always credible witnesses in this story. Pilots, military officers, commercial aviators, radar operators, police, scientists, lawyers, teachers, and even astronomers. And yes, ordinary citizens too. People without a security clearance are not automatically idiots. People without medals are not automatically drunks. And people without cable news packaging are not automatically beneath consideration. Take Kenneth Arnold from 1947. He wasn't some hayseed making up a campfire story. He was an experienced pilot and a businessman, and he was measured and careful in the way that he described what he saw. That matters. It has always mattered. So if Tyson wants to clean up his act, good. And I mean that. I'm for it. But don't clean up your act by dirtying up the witnesses who came before the current moment. I've met Neil deGrasse Tyson several times at the Emmy Awards. He has always been personally gracious to me, and he was especially nice to my children. I appreciated that then, and I appreciate it now. In person, he has struck me as charming, smart as hell, and genuinely passionate about science. So this is not personal in that sense. This is not me saying he's a bad guy. This is me saying that a gifted public science communicator has, for too long, taken the cheap laugh instead of the harder look. And I felt strongly enough about this that back in 2021, I challenged him publicly to a live 2-hour in-person debate on UFOs and UAP. A real forum is what I wanted, with a real moderator, not one more glib drive-by soundbite. I did that because the subject deserved serious treatment, and because a lot of people felt belittled by the way he was handling it. Well, of course, that debate never happened. The time for that debate has probably passed, but it is not too late for him to clean up his act. And by that, I do not mean that he needs to become a believer. I do not mean that he needs to declare that the saucers have landed and that Zeta Reticuli has opened an embassy. I just mean something simpler, much more adult, much more scientific. I want him to stop sneering at people, Stop the caricatures of the witnesses. Stop pretending the subject only became respectable when men with titles started saying the same things civilians have been saying and suffering for saying for decades. Because that is really what's at stake here and what's offensive here. The people Tyson is now prepared to take more seriously did not appear out of nowhere. They entered a story already built by people who took ridicule, career damage, public embarrassment, and social stigma for reporting what they knew and what they saw. Now, some of them were wrong. Of course they were. Some of them misidentified things. Some embellished. Some remembered badly. Well, welcome to the human race. But not all of them were ridiculous, and that distinction matters. In fact, it mattered so much that it reminds me of my own impromptu debate with Carl Sagan. And yes, I've told that story lately on Soundlight and Frequency, but here's why it belongs here. Back in the early 1980s, I was at KCET, which was the PBS station in Los Angeles, where I was an investigative reporter and sometimes anchor. I hosted a live special called Saturn and Beyond, which was about the Voyager encounter with Saturn, and Sagan was my guest. After the show, as the host, I walked him out to his car in the PBS parking lot at KCET because he was on his way to another interview, and I think it was Nightline out at JPL. And there in that parking lot, we got into a friendly but spirited argument about UFOs. Now here's the point. Sagan disagreed with me, sharply. He was deeply skeptical, but he did not strike me as contemptuous of the people involved. He did not laugh off witnesses as rubes and drunks and fools. He argued. He pushed back. He made his case. He stayed in the exchange. And that is a much more honorable position. Tyson, at least publicly, has too often behaved as if wit were evidence and mockery were method. They are not. And even now, in this supposedly more open phase, he really still can't quite help himself. He gives a little ground, says that these newer insiders are serious, that they're sincere, that the conversation has shifted, and then almost immediately jumps to some version of, fine, bring out the alien. There it is, the line, the joke, the escape hatch, the laugh getter. And yes, it plays, of course it plays. It's television friendly, it's viral, it even sounds tough-minded, but it is still a dodge. Because the UFO-UAP issue has never required that every serious observer first be handed a live alien and an ashtray from the mothership before the subject can be treated as worthy of adult attention. It has required what science always requires: evidence, sorting, comparison, sensor data, witness testimony, pattern recognition, historical context, and the willingness to look at anomalies without using sarcasm as bug spray. Tyson knows this. He absolutely knows this. He also knows that science often begins in messy places, inconvenient reports, unexpected observations, testimony that doesn't fit the dominant framework. A mature scientific culture does not laugh first and look later. It looks first. And that has always been my objection. So, here is my message to Neil deGrasse Tyson. If you are trying to evolve on this subject, good. Really, good for you. But if you're going to take the turn, make the turn with some humility. Acknowledge that the earlier witnesses were not punchlines. Acknowledge that ridicule is not a substitute for inquiry. Acknowledge that some of the very people you treated as beneath consideration helped carry this subject through the decades when respectable culture wanted nothing to do with it. Because if your new position is that some of this deserves real attention, then the decent thing, and the scientific thing as well, is to say so without trampling the people who got there before you did. You do not have to agree with every case. You do not have to endorse every witness. You do not have to wave a little green flag and call up SETI to apologize. But you should stop putting down the earlier witnesses as if they were all interchangeable with some lazy stereotype. That would be progress. And at this point, that would be enough for me to take notice. That's my take.